AGOA is dead.
For almost 25 years, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, has provided non-reciprocal duty-free access to the United States for certain African products.
South Africa, 60%, 30%.
Have the new tariffs imposed by the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration killed it? The trade agreement introduced by former President Bill Clinton has essentially been the cornerstone of trade between the U.S. and Africa. Its aim to help industrialize the continent, create job opportunities, and basically replace aid with trade. And last year, exports from African countries to the U.S. under AGOA were worth $8 billion, according to data from the United States International Trade Commission, down from $9.3 billion in 2023. 32 African countries were eligible for tariff-free access to the American market last year, but in exchange they had to remove trade and investment barriers for U.S. investors, support democracy, and uphold human rights without undermining U.S. national security or foreign policy interests. Last year, South Africa topped the list as the largest exporter to the U.S. under AGOA, trading $14 billion from the sale of vehicles, metals, and jewelry. It was followed by Nigeria at $5.7 billion, mostly from selling oil, and Ghana generated $1.7 billion from agricultural products, cars, and machinery, among others.
The success of AGOA varies from country to country. Depending on the country's export profile and the country's economic interests. So, for example, the three largest exporters under AGOA were Nigeria, South Africa, and Angola. South Africa exporting vehicles to the US, Nigeria exporting petroleum to the US. So it depends on the country and the region. And then, of course, Lesotho is a success story. Exports of garments to the United States. So I think there are various degrees of success.
But that tariff-free trade for Lesotho also created a trade surplus with the U.S. So it was hit with the threat of the highest reciprocal tariff globally of 50% in an effort, according to Trump, to balance trade. Even though its implementation has been posed to allow for negotiations, textile workers in Lesotho are worried about the impact U.S. import taxes will have on them and the country's economy, as Brenda Radido reports.
At the Levi's garment factory, workers are busy sewing and putting final touches on garments that will be exported to the United States. But all is not okay for them, as the U.S. reciprocal tariffs has left the workers fearing for their future due to the sudden trade policy shift. For years, the landlocked country has been relying on America as its biggest market for exporting brands like Levi's, Wrangler, Calvin Klein, and even diamonds. Every month, it exports 440,000 pairs of Levi jeans to America, but the high tariffs will make goods from Lesotho less competitive in the U.S. now. Lesotho's Economic Freedom Trade Union is worried that the 50% trade tariff on Lesotho, and which was the highest on President Donald Trump's long list of targeted economies, will chase away investors. However, Trump says Lesotho imposes a 99% tariff on American goods and that the reciprocal tariff was a response to the tariff barriers put on U.S. goods.
Investors now, they might look it other way if the government do not take an immediate action, maybe to kneel before the American government.
Lesotho, a country that President Donald Trump once claimed nobody has ever heard of, is America's key trading partner and has enjoyed duty-free access to U.S. due to the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA. It exports 75% of its textiles to the U.S., and as of 2024, its bilateral trade with America stood at $240.1 million, according to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. Lesotho has a gross domestic product of $2.1 billion as of 2023, according to the World Bank, and a big percentage of its GDP comes from exports. President Trump's reciprocal tariffs on African countries now overturns AGOA, which gave several countries in sub-Saharan Africa duty-free access to the U.S. market with over 1,800 products such as textile, vehicles and steel. And even as African governments are concerned over the future of AGOA, which is up for renewal in September, the end of the trade deal between Africa and America will cost these workers their jobs. Brenda Radido, Africa Matters.
The new tariffs are compounded by the temporary U.S. foreign aid freeze and dismantling of its humanitarian agency, USAID. It has prompted African leaders to call for a unified approach that prioritizes an Africa First policy, where only 16% of its total exports are traded within the continent, according to the UN Trade and Development figures.
First, we have to build our industrial capacity, our capacity to produce value-added production, whether it is manufacturing or agriculture. So industrial development is absolutely critical. Second, we have to eliminate intra-Africa barriers to trade and investment. As you correctly said, intra-Africa trade is low relative to other regions. Third, we have to invest in trade supporting infrastructure. This also has started to happen. Africa's infrastructure deficit is estimated by the African Development Bank to be well over $100 billion annually. But that's also an opportunity to our development finance institutions to invest. So these three factors: investing in industrial development, investing in infrastructure, eliminating intra-Africa trade and investment barriers. In the medium to long term, this is the response that we should be focusing on to enable us, as I said earlier, to build a domestic market that will be substantial enough that as a continent we don't rely on others for our own economic prosperity.
Critics say making the African Continental Free Trade Area a reality, which began trading 4 years ago, has been slow. Its ambition to become the world's largest free trade area with a combined $3 trillion GDP, reduce customs delays, as well as lower taxes and tariffs between member countries is still on track, according to Mene, who says all countries on the continent, except for Eritrea, have signed the Continental Trade Agreement.
There are 49 countries that have ratified the agreement establishing the AfCFTA, which is the fastest instrument since the establishment of the African Union, and certainly since the establishment of the Organization of African Unity in May 1963. This is the fastest instrument to be ratified, which means that our leaders, our governments understand the urgency of Africa's economic integration to enable us as a continent to stand up on our own 2 feet without relying on anybody else. We have a market of 1.4 billion people. That market is substantial enough that our continent does not require aid from anybody else, that we can build our own industries, build our own investment capacity. This is the vision of the AfCFTA, and this is why our heads of states are accelerating the implementation of the AfCFTA.
Still to come here on Africa Matters.
I'm Isaac Kalaji here in Accra to tell you why Ghana is ordering foreigners operating in its local gold market to cease operations by May 1st.
I am Maimunaba, and I'll share how in West Africa the Gambia Banjul port is being revamped by a Turkish company, Albera Group. The new port in Sanyang promises to ease congestion, boost trade and create jobs, helping the Gambia economic growth.
To Africa's largest gold producer, Ghana, which is reforming its local gold industry by preventing foreigners from buying, selling and exporting gold directly. The government claims it's a new strategy to protect small-scale miners and ensure that the state benefits from this sector. Isaac Kaleji in Accra has more.
Mining is crucial to Ghana's economy. For decades, it has been a major contributor to its GDP, raking in foreign exchange earnings. Licensed small-scale mining is an important part of this puzzle. Artisanal mining employs at least 1.5 million people directly and indirectly, according to Ghana's Minerals Commission statistics. Over 3,000 small-scale mining groups are registered and licensed to operate. Small-scale miners account for approximately 35% of all gold produced in the country. But the miners accuse licensed gold traders, largely foreigners, of unfair dealings.
The foreigners were taking undue advantage of the sector. Sometimes they buy it as cheap as 20% of the world market price.
The government says it wants to protect the interests of small-scale miners. A new agency, the Ghana Gold Board, would now take charge of all local gold trading activities.
So what is going to happen now is that if you want to sell gold, if you want to export gold, you'd have to deal with Gold Board.
In 2022, 60 tons of gold worth an estimated $1.2 billion was smuggled from Ghana, according to the government. Foreign gold traders are sometimes accused of complicity.
The system by which they operate, that is changing. They are not being thrown out of the Ghanaian market. It's a free market here in Ghana, and it's very open. But like I mentioned to you, the Gold Board concept puts the Ghanaian first. And it's a concept that has been instituted to help us ensure that we maximize profit from our gold and other natural resources. So for any foreigner that would want to engage in gold trading, be it buying, be it selling, be it exporting, you'd have to deal with Gold Board. We'll do that on your behalf. You don't get to lose. It's a win-win situation. Just so we are saying that this time around, don't use that route, which some have been abusing over the years and smuggling gold out of the country, and Ghana ending up not benefiting at all. We're saying that, look, enough of using that route, enough of that situation, deal with Gold Board, and then we can have a win-win situation. In the end, we all win.
Local miners have high expectations for the directive.
So if the pricing is coming from the world market price and from what government is buying, I don't think it will be a rip-off like before.
But not everybody is pleased with the move to push out the foreign buyers.
I think that asking them to quit the space altogether is not practical. If foreigners want to deal in the mineral, which is gold, then they should license them to be able to do so. You know, in this day and age of international agreements, you know, bordering on free trade and all that, you know, you'll be opening yourself up for international litigation when it comes to such a regulation.
That means it will be a delicate balancing act for the government.
The directive for foreigners to exit the local gold trading market within weeks has received mixed reactions. While the small-scale miners welcome it as a protection against gold smuggling and delivering fair pricing for locals, some analysts worry the directive could lead to trouble from foreign gold traders in the sector. They want the government to tread cautiously.
Ghana's mining sector still has many challenges, including illegal mining activities, which continue to destroy water bodies and forests. It is yet to be seen how ongoing reforms could positively transform the sector. Isaac Kalaji, Africa Matters, Accra.
Now, the Gambia's Banjul port is facing serious congestion, costing millions in lost revenue. As neighboring countries upgrade their ports, the country risks falling behind. But Turkish company Albayrak Group has a plan, as Maimuna Bar reports.
The Gambia's Banjul port covers approximately 10 square kilometers of land, with 1,300 square kilometers covered in water, and it plays a huge role in the country's economy. Once dubbed the supermarket of the West African business hub, the port attracted trade from its neighbors. However, in recent years, poor infrastructure and increasing congestion has caused major setbacks.
The current situation is really challenging because the amount of time that vessels stay before discharging I mean, it's a lot. And that costs businesses a lot in terms of demurrage. And that cost also will be passed on to the consumer. So, basically, it's not cost effective.
In July last year, Gambian authorities signed a 30-year landmark partnership agreement with Turkish company Albera Group to overhaul the country's port infrastructure. Government receiving 20% of the revenue, while Albera Group holds the rest, to cover its $90 million investment in salaries for more than 1,000 existing staff. The company plans to turn the current port into a business and a tourist hotspot, placing the deepwater port at Sanyan and moving shipyards to other locations.
We are expecting that there will be great improvement, not only the infrastructure, but the equipment to handle this cargo, so that the turnaround will be faster. The port will get more revenue in terms of the equipment, the facilities that they have, and then the goods themselves will be much reasonable, cost-effective to the consumer with no added cost.
This partnership aims to tackle congestion, more efficiency, and ultimately boost local businesses and economy, while serving parts of Senegal, landlocked Mali, and other neighboring countries. As part of their commitment to revitalizing the Gambia's infrastructure, the Turkish company says it aims to have a lasting impact on both the industry and the local economy.
Albera Group is here to digitalize building infrastructure, rehabilitate and create more revenue through updating the system. Providing machinery, capacity building, and control the traffic congestion in the port. We are confident that in the next few years, all our competitors will lose business to us.
Many people hope that this would help the Gambia shore up its role in West African trade and shipping. Maimouna Ba, Africa Matters, Banjul, the Gambia. While the ongoing conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo is devastating both the economy and the environment, local fishermen say the growing threat of M23 rebels is crippling the country's vital fishing industry, putting the livelihoods of many at risk. Rumeza Choda reports.
The once thriving fishing industry is in a state of crisis. Armed groups, including the M23 rebels, have taken control of parts of the South Kivu region, including Bukavu, putting local communities at risk.
We are very insecure. Before, we used to see soldiers ensuring our security on the lake, and sometimes we would give them fuel. But currently, no one ensures our security. We are fishing near the shore, but if we go further out, they really kill us and take everything we have. We buy our nets for $500, and with other expenses, it can go up to $1,000. But when they catch us on the lake, they beat us, and then either they kill us or they take everything.
Bukavu's economy relies on fishing, and the sector contributed more than 6% to South Kivu's GDP before the conflict. The war means many local businesses and international brands have shut up shop, leaving thousands with no economic safety net.
What fishing has brought me is priceless. Today I have my own house thanks to fishing. Even tenant fishermen can pay their rent through this activity. Without work, it's impossible to have a roof. I send at least 15 children to school, including orphans I help, as well as my own children. And all this thanks to fishing.
The UN report shows that the conflict, rooted in ethnic tensions and control over valuable mineral resources like gold and coltan, has displaced over 700,000 people in eastern DRC since January. With security forces battling to reclaim control, Bukavu residents are also struggling to stay afloat. Rumeza Chodar, Africa Matters.
Sporadic intercommunal conflict is also devastating people in north-central Nigeria. They're calling for urgent intervention from the government to end attacks on farming communities that's left more than 100 people dead. Samson Omale traveled to Zike, a farming village in the Bassa local government area of Plateau State, and brings us this report.
Grief and despair grip Zike as women mourn the dead. The sorrow is overwhelming. More than 50 lives were lost in a single unprovoked attack. These are members of the ZK farming community gathered to bury their loved one after a violent raid by armed men. Sunday Ali lost his younger brother in the attack. He says he feels abandoned by the government.
We are not a citizen of Nigeria or Plateau State, so I don't know what government are doing about us. I'm so sad today.
The attacks are suspected to have been carried out by armed herders, part of a long-running dispute over land. More than 2,000 people have been displaced. Many have fled to makeshift camps with little access to food, water, or shelter. Reverend Father Dayank Raymond is a coordinator of one of the camps. He says the needs are overwhelming.
You can see some of them are traumatized since they came here because some lost their husbands, some children were got born in their house to ashes. They could not even see their dead bodies. And again, we have pregnant women here, and that's why we have to look for a special place for them.
There are a couple of reasons linked to the resurgence of attacks. One amongst them is the attempt by armed herders to grab lands owned by locals. Fidelia Solomon is one of the many who narrowly escaped death during an earlier attack in Bokos. Her home was burned, her crops looted.
It's rainy season now. People are farming. We are here. We don't know what we will come and do after we leave this place.
In a televised address, Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutfwang described the attacks as systematic and deliberate.
Let us be clear. This is not random violence. This is not an isolated conflict between farmers and herders. What we are witnessing is a systematic and premeditated campaign, one that seeks to displace, destabilize, and instill terror and fear on our people and communities.
In the wake of the fresh violence that has rocked north-central Nigeria in recent times, there are growing calls for strengthened local security and policing, fair land reforms and conflict resolution systems, and accountability for perpetrators, and not just visits by top government officials for condolences to affected communities when these attacks happen.
Samson Omale, Africa Matters, ZK, Plateau State, Nigeria.
Now, solar energy is becoming increasingly popular in Niger as people turn to imported panels that are driving down the cost of producing power. It's also reducing energy shortages generated by regional sanctions imposed after the military coup in 2023, as Rupert Stone reports.
Solar power booms in Niger. More and more people are purchasing solar panels in the desert country where sunlight is plentiful.
In the past, solar panels were only used by residents of areas without access to electricity. But today, even those with electricity are using them effectively, especially in cases of power cuts that can last 1, 2 or 3 hours.
After Niger's coup in 2023, Nigeria suspended electricity supplies to its neighbour, causing production to fall by 30% to 50%. Since then, supplies have been restored, but at a lower level than before, catalysing the transition to solar.
The solar market has been rapidly expanding since the events of July 26th, with the disruption of electricity from Nigeria. The market is truly experiencing a significant rise. There is increasing demand, and this is also due to other factors, such as the availability of qualified technicians now, as well as the manufacturers who are established here with us and provide after-sales service.
The shift is fueled by cheap panels imported largely from China. Lithium batteries are also becoming more popular. Solar not only provides a less expensive form of energy for businesses, it helps power water pumps in the countryside. The government seeks to increase Niger's energy independence. To that effect, it is pursuing a number of new solar projects. Access to electricity is still very low in Niger, at under 20%, so there is a steep hill to climb. But solar could make that process less arduous. Rupert Stone, Africa Matters.
That's our show this week. Share your thoughts and suggestions about the stories you've seen on this episode, or ideas on what you'd like us to cover on YouTube or on X using the hashtag Africa Matters. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye from me, Grace Correa. Kanja.